All right. All right. So just like a quick overview here, since I think everybody's pretty much familiar with this. Uh, July 15th to 17th is the time. It's free registration. Registration closes June 30th. So there's some time. The usual agenda. Um, we have two tracks. One's in the morning, transitions of cares in the morning, advanced directives in the afternoon. Um, so the morning one will go from 9 to 1. The afternoon one will go from 1:30 to 5:30. We'll have squeeze lunch in between. It'll be a kickoff and overview, then a testing demo, and then office hour to answer questions. These are the track proposals. Actually, they've both been updated, I believe now. So when we will go through those. Um, and we have frozen the scenario. And so we are now off onto sample data. So, and preparing that. So the next deadline for that is June 5th. Obviously, if we can release some of it sooner, that gives folks a little more time to implement. We hope to have the sample data frozen on June 19th and have a dry run on June 26th and July 10th, surrounding the July 4th holiday. And then showtime is July 16th. So any questions on any of that? Hopefully that's all review.
I've got a minor question about the scenario. Lisa was corresponding with me last night. One of the two portable medical orders that Betsy does, and I just wandered away from my desk for a minute because it keeps my ADD under control and I don't read emails when I'm trying to focus. I can't remember which one. You guys tell me, but her concern was that Betsy has just returned to the SNF. I think it's the post-stroke. And she said, I wonder in reality if she would be cognitively intact enough to sign her portable medical order. Is it a big deal to say that as Charles was getting her settled, he was there for the portable medical order discussion and he was able to legally sign one of the two? I can't remember which one. He was able to legally sign in Betsy's stead. It doesn't really affect the story much, affects a little bit of the data. But do you guys think that that would be realistic, just to do a slight tweak on the story to represent that?
I mean, it seems reasonable to me, but I'm not a clinician. So I don't know, Uba or Terry or.
I
I
would
don't think it
think,
changes a lot materially, y'all. I'm sorry, Terry, go ahead.
No, no, no.
that may have been
That
me,
certainly
Blair.
makes sense. Clinically, it's
Oh,
fine.
same here. I think the same.
All right, cool. And I know it's legally viable. I mean, they literally say patient or patient representative signature, and we've got a fully executed durable medical power of attorney. It's all legit. It affects the data and like 5 words in the story. So I'm not trying to rock the story. I was just kind of thinking about it in retrospect. And Lisa said, would she really be cognitively able, fresh off a stroke? And I'm like, boy, that's just such a small change to make to add a little more realism. I think I'm comfortable with that. But I said, let me talk to the team tomorrow.
Sounds good.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to check and make sure nobody was like, are you kidding me right now?
Nope. It sounds like it just affects the data, and that's kind of what we're working on. So, we can update that minor change to the scenario that don't think should affect anybody else.
You bet. I'll pull the scenario open. I'm heading back to my desk. So I'll pull the scenario open. Y'all do what you do, and then I'll make sure that I share and collaborate with you guys if I find the ideal spot just to add a couple words.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so this is the track page now. And so I believe this has all been updated, correct? No?
I don't know.
I pushed the material into the TOC. I don't know if anybody did for ADI.
Okay. All right, then we will make sure that happens. Sorry about that. But we will. So what I have done is I've added system roles for the advanced directives, and I think it's really we have an advanced directives client and we have a repository. Those are the two primary roles in this track. Um, and so for each of the scenes, so this background scene is all informational, so there's not really anything going on there. Um, in scene one, I have, basically an 80 client posting to the repository, and I know in the up to this point, it's sort of magically appeared. We haven't walked people through that in the client. I'm assuming that probably will be the case this time. So that might be a background activity. Um, does that make sense?
I think that's correct.
Okay. So I will just put an edit here. Uh, happens in the background. And then, basically just there's a confirmation that we can read that information once we do that. And then in scene two, this is when all the other clients get involved and each pulls down their version and looks at it and displays it in their own fashion. And then in scene three, we have the portable medical order and personal advanced care plan. They're updated in sort of digital form. Um, and so, um, and I know that I guess I believe the personal advanced care plan is it's an update, but the um, portable medical order we're creating a new one, right? So in that the repository just kind of replaces or marks the old one. But I mean, I'm thinking that is it a put is for an update and a post is for a new one. And I just want to
I
confirm that's
believe
correct.
that's right. I believe that's right. I know Lisa can confirm that for us, but I believe that that is correct. And I just put in the chat the revised verbiage just to loop Charles in. So, and I also made the changes on the document on the Google Doc.
Hmm.
So wherever you're pulling from, I just said it, Betsy's request on 528 while Charles is there with his mom. The SNF team creates a new PMO to reflect her desire to receive more comfort-focused care, blah, 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 blah. And at their request, helps them both update, blah, blah, blah. So just minor, minor, minor little words. Hopefully that didn't change anything significant.
Okay. Yeah. So,
Sorry.
I mean, if this hasn't been updated from the main story, then we'll just update
Yeah.
that there, and then we can make any tweaks from there. But I think that this is basically what's happening in the scene. Um, and then in scene four, that's when, all the other clients get their shot at pulling this stuff down and displaying it in their own fashion. Um, so does that make sense?
I think we're looking good. Let's see, who's the clinician? Uh, yeah, Dr. Onco. Okay.
Or
Okay.
Bronco.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so we'll update this with the latest and greatest story, and then we'll make any tweaks as necessary. But that's kind of what I've added to this so that it's clear what roles are here and what roles do what in each of the scenes. And certainly we can adjust that as we go. Um, I don't know, May, did you want to talk about sample data or UBA?
Uber is not online.
Oh, okay. So May, do you want to talk about sample data?
May, I believe you are on mute. We cannot hear you.
Maybe the double mute or triple mute.
Okay, sure.
Now we can hear you.
Yeah, I mean, if probably for the initial part of the sample data creation, I probably want either, James speaking on behalf of that, and then for the latter half of the authoring and the creation of the actual sample data, I'll be happy to take up that piece of it. If that's
Does it make sense to go through both scenarios first and then talk about that? Does that make sense? Or
Yeah, I think that would be a good way to handle it.
okay. All right. So, anything else we want to talk about here before we move on to transitions of care? All right. Transitions of care. Um, so I've added the system roles here. There are 6 roles in this. So there's the Presto app, there's the EHR, there's the Health Data Manager, medication reconciliation app, the pseudo Dell, and burden assessment Smart on Fire app. Does that sound correct?
So I have a question. Yesterday during the PFE subgroup meeting, and we spent a lot of time talking about assessment during the SIM one.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have a assessment? I guess that's the Presto on Fire.
Yep.
It's
So
there. Is
clear.
is still for committed, or is that just a TBD? I guess that's
Well, I certainly hope we can do it. So,
okay. And I guess the question is like with all the assessment that we talked about, Jamar yesterday, and Presto can handle that. I know MDS definitely we can handle that. Is do we have
So
any limitation?
I'm not necessarily sure what Presto is. So I don't know that I'll be able to answer that question.
yeah, so Presto is the app that um let's see. So Presto is what we showed last in the January Connectathon. It's an assessment app. So what it does is it uses you can enter the data in manually, or you can enter the data in via using artificial intelligence. So it also reads in the medical record of the patient, and from that creates a clinical summary using using AI,
Hmm.
and then uses that clinical summary to then create an updated questionnaire response to try to answer as many questions as it can. So it takes a look at the questions that are in the assessment. It takes a look, and it looks at the summary, tries to find connections to answers, serializes the answers, and does a questionnaire response. It then puts it up a page showing the answers that it found, which can be reviewed and corrected, and then it submits the resulting questionnaire response for the assessment. So the idea is that it can reduce the number of um, questions that a clinician might have to answer, especially on some of these really big assessments.
I guess the
Sure.
related question is definitely Presto can handle MDS, Oasis, all those like big forms from the Dell. Can it handle different of assessment instruments we talked about yesterday, Jamar? If you can just provide the couple of the key assessment instrument, and
Mhm.
it will help us to assess how much work we need to actually during the demo show the assessment collection process.
Okay, so we talked about the section GG, which is in the MDS,
Okay.
as well as the BIMS. There was the functional communication measure, the Barthel index of ADLs, and I believe the timed up and go. I think that's it. I can pull up the notes to verify, but honestly, it might be a function of where we prioritize what assessments we have because we had a lot of ideas yesterday, and we ended the call with needing to choose two assessments per discipline. So if it makes it easier, honestly, we can, and I'm not still completely sure that I understand how we know if the Presto can handle it, but it might be a function of us looking through the assessments and choosing which ones Presto can handle, if that's feasible.
Yeah, we're gonna have limited ability, very limited ability to make a lot of changes to Presto. So it's
Okay.
going to be a
Yeah.
matter of what works kind of out of the box right now.
So I
So
Okay.
think, except for the last two that you mentioned, Jamar, that's part of the MDS, right? Like,
yeah,
so it should work.
Right.
The
yeah, that's fine.
functional, oh gosh, I always forget the functional whatever measure thing. That's definitely part of the PFE IG. I don't know if it like is part of Presto, but we've worked with that before. The last two you mentioned, I'm not familiar with.
Yeah, the first two, the section GG and the BIMS, are part of the MDS.
Yeah.
The other ones, the Barthel Index, functional communication measure, timed up and go, I'm not sure that those are not a part of the MDS. So those are the ones that I'm unsure about. So I guess Dave, we can see which of those assessments I can work with UBA maybe and see which of the assessments that we discussed in the meeting yesterday will work out of the box, and how about we use those?
Yeah, we can, we're going to need to create, like a sample, or at least a script, to show, what we'd want to, what we want to enter for those items. Um, we'd also have to, because one of the things with Presto is showing how AI can answer some of the questions.
Mm-hmm.
We'd have to see whether how effective that is. Um, I mean, we can certainly show, or we should be able to show the ability to, read a questionnaire based on those assessments. We'll have to create those, and then have that displayed in Presto, and we can certainly should be able to show it that we can do it manually. Um, I think the real question there would be if there's any kind of skip patterns and things like that, meaning that if there's, the answer to one question requires answers to like the next three or four or not. That's what I mean by a skip pattern. So like if
Right.
the answer is yes, then you've got three other questions that sort of get into more detail about that. Whereas if the answer is no, then you just skip over to the next main question. If there's complications there, then that could create issues right now. But then I think, it's a matter of, does the clinical summary make a difference in answering any of those questions from the data? And if the answer to that is no, then, the impact of Presto is somewhat lessened. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
It does. I think I can reach out to Uba and maybe we can meet offline to see which ones would be best to use in the scenario, which
Okay.
assessments would be best to use.
Yeah.
I think if we can focus on the MDS succession and make it clinical relevant, that would be really helpful, Jamar.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right. So I've done the same kind of thing here, where I've gone through each of the scenes and sort of put in, um, you know, what we're doing. So, and so, here it's basically, showing that we're able to pull up the assessment data, the personal advanced care plan, the mental health advanced directive, um, and show that. Um, and then, once she has the stroke, the emergency department EHR grabs that information. The Presto Smart app does new assessment data, um, in this scene, and then from that, all of that, the um, emergency department EHR creates a transitions of care um, bundle and posts that to the health data manager. The skilled nursing facility, the EHR, then gets that, and we show that transfer has occurred. Um, and then in scene two, and this is where I have a question. So, so there's lots of things here where we're, kind of include goes into what we're doing in the advanced directive track, where we're creating new PMOs, updating PACPs and MHAD, mental health advanced directives. I don't know if we really want to show that here in this track because it just kind of duplicates what we're going to show them later. So, that might be sort of, kind of background thing, in which case we have, um, you know, maybe we just refer, hang out for, come back for the afternoon. We'll show you that piece. So, I was curious, what folks' thoughts were on that. I don't know, James, do you have any thoughts?
No, I think we can mark that as narrative for this track and focus on the other portions of the transitions care more in this. And we, during the narrative, we can note that that'll be the primary objective of the later session.
Yeah, I think what we can do is maybe the later session can show the little bit of more of the sausage making.
Mhm.
But I think, we probably do want to have, particularly of the transitions of care to the home health, we want to have those, have those updated PACP and mental health advanced directives in that transition, so that
Okay.
the so we don't have to show how it was created and all of, show the other
Okay.
clients displaying it and all of that. But we do want to be able to show that it came through
Mhm.
with the transitions of care. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. I think we'll just need to work out the details of how much of how much of the sausage making just gets done in the background and the end results get transferred back and forth when we're doing our data exchange at discharge to
Hmm.
from the SNF to the home health.
Yeah, and the pseudo HR is able to show the advanced directive stuff in with it, and we'd have to make sure we can do it within the context of transitions of care.
Sure.
Okay, so and then in scene three, Betsy's discharged to home health. So the home health agency EHR gets the transitions of care data. And this is where the medication reconciliation happens. So we have all the medication lists, then we get that, and then the app, the clinician through the app reconciles those, and then it writes a reconciled medication list, and then the EHR can pull that up and display it. And so that's posted with a bundle along with the risk report. And um, so we'll see, whether we'll be able to pull that in. I think, probably for safety measures, we should probably look to make and add the capability for the pseudo HR to pull that. I don't think right now that's in there. So that's something that we would need to implement. Shouldn't be terribly difficult, because I think it's just a PDF. So it's should be a matter, and so I know that that functionality is already exists in the sudo EHR. We just have to make sure that it is used and in this scenario where it's getting that bundle. And then scene four. This is basically the ZBI burden assessment and dedicated to that. And so there's the burden assessment app, Smart on Fire app, and then I think what we can add to this is have the uh, you know a health agency EHR get that.
Uh,
Not
it wouldn't be the home health agency EHR. It would be Betsy's primary caregiver EHR. And also, I thought we had discussed like whoever her mental health provider was, with whatever there was something in the advanced directives track that was gonna tap into the behavioral health scenario that they already have going on.
okay.
And then also CMS.
Yeah. So how are we going to show that?
Uh, well, I thought I don't know if how much work it would be to dust off the basically we it really just well, I guess I don't know is the answer. I thought that you guys had some kind of thing that is associated with the Presto app. Is that not true? Like some kind of a pseudo receiving system of some kind?
Well, the sudo EHR can do that. Uh,
Okay.
so that may be what this could be either the PCP, EHR, and CMS. This is how they would get that information, or we're able to display it. Uh, Presto actually just creates assessments. It doesn't actually display them per se.
Okay. I mean, I guess we were just, thinking just for demonstration and story purposes, it would be helpful to have, it received by two separate kind of API endpoints.
Yeah, so if it's coming back as a questionnaire response, then theoretically the Washington State Department of Health might be able to do that. They have the capability of looking at a questionnaire response.
Okay.
That's not CMS, but I suppose we could put a CMS skin on something.
Yes, that would be what we want to show. I guess our principal kind of just from a storytelling perspective thing that we wanted to demonstrate is that, like, yes, in this particular case, we have sort of indicated that Charles is going to fill this out kind of in the waiting room without the provider present, because we don't like the part we're trying to illustrate is that this saves clinician burden because the clinician doesn't have to sit there and like administer the assessment. They can just send the caregiver home with the web link or send them out to the waiting room with the web link, and they can complete it kind of on their own time and then transmit it. So I think that that we were also hoping to show kind of how it could go both to the clinician's EHR and also directly to CMS, kind of, because of that.
Okay.
But again, I don't like it, like basically it's a questionnaire. So it's just basically setting up a separate API endpoint was my understanding.
Uh,
Uh,
so
yeah, we could do that, I suppose. We could set up a separate CMS server to receive, running happy that kind of like what we did when we did the sort of the iKeys for
Yeah,
the
that's what I was thinking. I didn't know how much work it would be to dust off the old iKeys server and, it's not iKeys, but just CMS receiving system of some kind, it's 22 questions. It does not have to be elaborate. It just needs to get there.
But is it a Fire server that would be that CMS receiving system?
Yes.
Oh, so it's easy. We could just spin up another mailed
Yeah,
instance.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what my team was talking about using as Postman.
Okay, with Postman. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Dave, if you want that for that, it should take 5 minutes literally to
Yeah.
set.
Perfect. That's what we're going
Cool.
for.
Okay.
And May, I did have a clarifying question. So I think, again, I am very new to being on the super deep tech side of this situation. So thank you for your patience. But my team is asking for like, where the server is being hosted. Is it still Interoperability Institute or where are these servers? I don't understand. Like, who's hosting the servers?
Yeah, so they still be
Sure.
the it's be meld servers run by the Interoperability Institute.
Okay.
Mhm.
And do we have the endpoints for those, or is that what you sent me, May, and it's just called not that?
So what I just had was the PACIO sandbox, which is what we used in January, but it looks like you wanted an extra receiving system, right? So that is,
Yes.
for example, the PCP EHR one that I see there, with the health data manager is putting, some of Betsy Smith Johnson's clinical data. You probably want a separate repository. It's just meant to be like a questionnaire store
Hmm.
that you can pull in. And that would be all in Fire. So that would be another just quick, instance that would set up that MELD server, which is run by the Interoperability Institute, and we'll just give you that open endpoint, and whichever questionnaires you want them, we'll just simply post them on there. It would just be a
Perfect. Thank you so
repository for
much.
questionnaires. Yeah, no problem.
Thank you for speaking my semi-tech fluent
Oh
kind of
no, it's all
request.
good. We're all learning. So,
Okay. All right. So I've added that as another role.
yeah,
Uh,
I'll give that as a to-do. And in fact, as we're talking about, I'll quickly set it up and put the link inside the chat.
awesome.
Excellent. That's exactly
Okay.
what my team was asking for. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you. So the Smart and Fire app would post it to the health data manager so we can pull it in from the PCP, and it would also post it to the CMS receiving system. And then the question, I guess, is how do we want to show that it actually got to the CMS receiving system? I mean, we can, create something, I guess, for that. Um, to pull that down, or we can just do a postman.
Yeah, I think my team was leaning toward just doing a postman.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
Dave, as I write this, is there any particular name you want for that system, or does it?
Well, that's I don't know whether,
You want to call it CMS?
Yeah, just
Sure.
call it CMS. CMS broadly is fine.
yeah. I
Um,
mean, the other thing that we did was the previous name that we had was the um, quality reporting system,
okay,
the PQRS.
let's do that.
So,
You want PQRS? Let's do that. Okay.
so it lives on. All right. So, does this stuff look good? Uh, we'll,
I'm sorry, can you scroll back down there,
yep,
Dave? To screen
sure.
4. Yeah. So I think we also wanted to show, kind of from again a storytelling perspective, that once it's kind of in the PCP system, that they can support, you know, sharing that information with her mental health provider to support coordination of care, that like provider to provider transfer. Do we have? I thought, I swear,
So
I
the
swear we had
question,
a conversation about this last week about, that there was already going to be a system set up for Betsy's mental health provider.
Yeah, so I guess the question is that piece of it go more towards the advanced directive side.
Yeah, and I don't think we had a mental health advanced directive provider set up, but from my perspective, it wouldn't be hard to set one up. The thing is, those are patient authored documents, so we don't really need a provider to get one done.
But wouldn't you want the provider to like have a copy of it?
Yes, I mean,
So
We
can we
can,
just spin up another, API endpoint? May said it doesn't take long. That is the mental health provider, and you can send the completed mental health advanced directive, and we can send the completed ZBI just so they have it as part of their record for the patient.
well,
To
the thing is, there's a version control thing that's on that side, so that's where like the 80 repository comes in.
Mhm.
Um,
Oh, well,
the
sure, it would
basic
go
meld,
through
the
the health
basic
data
meld.
manager, but like I'm saying, it could be like a push. Is that not possible?
Well, I mean, the thing is that I would think that if we're going to be doing it in the proper advanced directives way, it would want, it needs to be version controlled.
Hmm.
The health data manager doesn't do that. That's done, that functionality is provided by the AD repository, and a meld server out of the box would not do that. So that's why I'm thinking, maybe we show that through the software on the 80 on the advanced directive side, so that you know we're able to pull that
mhm.
and post it, do the appropriate version control, and then make sure we get only the latest and greatest one.
Yeah, I'm not quite appreciating the significance of having a mental health provider in the ADI story. Help me understand where you're coming from so I can support you, because I don't know, I'm just fuzzy.
So, I guess from a storytelling perspective, I think, it's always been a priority to improve the coordination of care and just making sure that everybody who is providing care has the ability to access information that would be relevant to informing care that has been collected or provided by other members of the healthcare team in other settings, right? So I was thinking,
Right.
there is a mental health advanced directive. You would, in principle, want to make sure that Betsy's mental health provider has a copy of that, just so they are aware and can, if it becomes necessary, have access to that information, and just be aware of her preferences and what might be going on, if there is a situation where it needs to go into effect. And from the ZBI perspective, I was thinking it would be appropriate for the mental health provider to be aware if Betsy is in a situation where her caregiver feels super burdened. That can put a lot of strain on Betsy's mental health, feeling like a burden. So that might be something that would prompt a conversation between them. So that's where I'm coming from. But I was just thinking in terms of, illustrating the fact that once all of this is available in Fire, it is very easy to share it between systems, is what I thought would be helpful to illustrate.
No, and I like that. I mean, would it work for your purposes? And please tell me no if it's a bad idea. If I did a patient-directed share of the mental health advanced directive, not only the baseline, but the update,
Mhm.
could we do a patient-directed share, and that, would at least show the power of putting the patient in the driver's seat? That's something I can do really easily through our application if that's a possible solution.
So I think that totally makes sense because then the system that it is getting shared to,
Hmm.
we would just share the ZBI to that same system, right? And it doesn't necessarily, I don't think, even have to go through your software. That's more work, right? There just needs to be a place for it to go.
Yep.
Is that
So,
making sense to you, Dave?
sort of, sort of. I have some additional, I guess, questions.
Sure.
So, um, so we'd want to probably display, when it ends up in the repository, we'd want to
Hmm.
display that. Um, and again, it's a matter of where we do that. Do we do that here? In which case we could have the pseudo EHR, for example, pull down the, the advanced directive and display it. Um, or would we want to just do it as part of the advanced directive track? In which case any of the advanced directive clients can do it.
Sure, sure. Yep, yep. I can't answer that question. I'm willing to help, but I think Jess has a vision in mind. I'll do what I can to make it easy on you guys.
I mean, um, we can certainly do a one-off of an M8 of a mental health advanced directive and push it to the health data manager in this track, and then display it. Um, but it's not using all the goodness that we have,
So
in
I'm
the
not seeing why it
directive
would be
track.
necessary to display the mental health directive in this track. I'm just saying that if they're doing that as part of the advanced directives track and that receiving endpoint exists as part of the advanced directives track, can't we
Yep.
just tap into that in this scenario, like as the receiving endpoint, and not necessarily bring in the advanced directives component to this scenario? We're just using the same system and having the scenarios be tested separately. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I guess if that mental health advanced directive can be loaded into the advanced directive repository, for the morning session, then we could pull that down and display it. Um, and then in the afternoon session, we can either leave it in there or wipe it clean and start that scenario fresh, if I'm understanding things. Does that make sense? Is that something that's not too arduous?
Sure. I mean, is it not? I'm not sure how it displays. But like, is it not possible to have it just also both of them up here in like separate? I don't know.
What
If
do you mean?
that makes sense, if that's the easiest thing to do, is just like erase it and then start over for the next scenario, as long as like there is an endpoint for it to go, that's fine. Also, I don't know if there's any way to just I have no idea what it looks like put up a separate, like, I don't know, like partition or whatever. I don't know.
Well, we no, I mean we have, if we do it through the 80 vault or the 80 repository, then, we can have that as part of a, setup for this. That would just mean that, Maria's team would have to be involved for this track as well. If we do it, if we show it here at this time, as part of this track. Um, and, um, as I mentioned, the alternative is we could just, post that data up into the health data manager, which would relieve Maria's team from having to be involved in this track. And then we can pull it down and display it, through the pseudo EHR. Uh, it-
Sure. I mean, that's fine if you can just display it through the pseudo EHR.
yeah,
Is it just, again, like possible to set up a separate endpoint that says, mental health provider or other provider? Is basically, I'm just trying to demonstrate the
we can set
providers
up
are
as
driving
many
the
meld
train.
servers as you want.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
think. I don't think there's any, so if we need to set up, I just want to hesitate to not have too many different endpoints.
sure.
So if it works to have it under the health data manager, we can certainly do that. Um, if we need to create another meld server and throw it there too, I mean we can do that. I think, I'm not sure you're gonna I'm not sure in the pseudo HR necessarily going to see the difference. It's going to, we're just going to show that it's there.
Hmm.
And we can mention narratively that, okay, this is in this into the mental the mental doctor's EHR.
That's fine.
Okay. So, okay. So then we'd probably then have another item here for um, mental health EHR to get um, the MHAD from, at the moment, I'm just going to put health data manager in here.
That's fine.
Does that work?
Yeah, perfect.
Cool.
Thank you, Maria, for being such a willing collaborator. I want to make this as simple as possible. I'm really thinking more about the narrative. How it displays is not as important to us at this particular time.
Okay. Anything else? James, do you have any thoughts?
The only thing I was thinking is that I just need to coordinate with Anne Marie to make sure we understand what they're going to be contributing from the medication standpoint and the reconciliation standpoint.
Hmm.
I think she's not on today, so I'll just coordinate with her via email.
Yep. Sounds good. All right. Very good.
So I have a question about the sample data for the ZBI, because, we're only talking about Betsy. So the sample data is just basically going to be Charles's answer to each of those 22 questions. So our sample data is basically like going to be like 30 pieces of data. Am I right?
That's my understanding. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
And
that's what I thought the plan was. It's going to be each the answer to each question is going to be a PFE observation, and then you can collect them together in a PFE collection. But yes, what you said is correct.
yep. So
okay.
so the question there too is, again, do we do the Julia Child cake swapping thing? Or are we going to show it do you think show it in real time or try to show it in real time where you're filling out the form in the Smart on Fire app and then we show it, you do that completely and then we post it and then we show it in our various different EHR and Postman and all of that.
Yeah,
I'm
I
back.
think
I'm
from a
sorry. I had
demo
to bounce
perspective.
again.
Sorry, go on.
I'm sorry. I just had to bounce for a second. I had a call from my doctor, so I apologize. I'm back. If I missed something, I was not being rude.
Oh, no, I just thanked you, Maria, for being such a willing collaborator. But I think we figured out a simple solution that your team doesn't have to be involved. And we're just gonna basically kind of loop in the narrative of all the things I just said and just use the very simple health data manager display to be like, and here it is in the mental health provider's EHR. So
Oh, quick.
Presto. No, 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 not Presto, but
Yeah. Don't blink.
so
yeah, so with respect to the Smart on Fire app, I do think, so what we'll do is we'll, figure out what makes sense for Charles to say as the answers and create a JSON of the, questionnaire responses. And then what we can do is once the app is, like the user interface and everything is up, we can do the like, the recording of what it looks like when you select each of those answers and then it shows it. Or we can, I don't know. I have to talk to my team. I guess it's also possible to do that in real time, like select the answers and then just generate it. Is that what you're asking, the difference?
Yeah, well, just, yeah, I mean, well, what we can do is we can have a pre-filled out assessment that we just post
Hmm.
to the health data manager, so it's not necessarily actually happening. Or if your our app can just sort of, you can have everything already selected and just sort of walk people quickly through. Here's what we answered, and just post it at that point. That works too. I'm just saying, the concern that I have is that, watching someone fill out a 30 question form or 22 question
Mhm.
form is
Hmm.
is a little, you know, eyes might roll back and folks might lose interest.
And I think you could have it in the demo that 18 of the questions are already filled out.
Yeah,
And then you just fill in the first three and hit submit or whatever. You know,
I think that works.
it up a
If
bit.
that's possible on your end, Jessica.
I will take that back to the team. I think that's possible.
Or you do the last three. You fill out the first 18 and then
Whichever.
fill out the last three and
Hmm.
okay. We've got 4 minutes left. Anything else we want to talk about?
I have
Uh,
a quick question about the Charles and in the EHR, is he a patient or is he just a related person to Betsy?
just a related person.
He's her
Related person.
healthcare agent. Yeah. He's her durable medical power of attorney.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Any information you want to provide, May, on the 3 minutes on the sample data?
Yeah, we're moving forward with it. Originally we did a migration of that sample data to from the September 2024 um and January 2025 Connectathon, and we froze it. So it's on a GitHub repo with it migrated over to Fish. And we're now on our way to I think the new Betsy Smith Johnson with the address in Detroit, to meet ADI is now already created, as well as all of the organization names that was specified for ADI. We're currently trying to reconcile it with the TOC names right now. That's going on. And we've already made assignments between Brian and I to create some of the matching sample data content. James can speak to it, but I think James and Uba are now trying to make sure that the storyboard and the clinical information that's needed are aligned. So I think our pipeline is working through now. And so far, I think it's going well. I don't know, James, if you want to comment further on that.
No, I think you covered most of it. We're just working through getting a lot of the assessments or the outstanding items. But we've got those listed out as far as what we need, and the different medication reconciliation, as I mentioned. We're just double checking to make sure everything's there and kind of set for all of the work that May and Brian are doing to do the creation of the data, as well as the other partners. So Jessica, I'm anticipating some data to come from you all, and I'm not sure how the ADI is exactly happening. If Maria, you'll be providing that, or if that's part of what May is going to be helping handle. And then finally, getting some inputs from Anne Marie. So I think we're in good shape.
Yeah, I think in the past, if once the advanced directive data is available on the 80 repository, we can pull it. We should be able to pull it down. So
Mhm.
So another question about the timeline to started their integration testing is one, do we think the data at what points, not the complete data, but just the available data for the interest party, I guess for each of like Jessica and Maria, and they can start to use verify the data, they can use it, and I think that's another timeline we can think through.
Yeah, that's a good point, Yolanda. I think uh rather than wait for everything to be done, go, okay, let's start testing it. It'd be nice to have these little mini connection tests, right?
Mhm.
So right now, if like Jessica, that one server I set up already has now one questionnaire. Like, it took me 10 minutes to do that. If you want to have your team just test that connection and just download that questionnaire, we already have that piece done. By the same token, I anticipate next week we should have at least, one basic set, right? Just so if you wanted to see, hey, we're getting one medication list or one medication, or we're getting one document reference, we'd like to reach out to the individual groups and to see, hey, can you try this out?
Right.
And that would help us, just do the most fundamental tests first. And that allows us then, especially with this story, as much as we want to make it realistic from a technical perspective, it's a repeat of a lot of a couple of patterns. So if we can test like at least the initial test of each of the patterns, then we can then have y'all focus on the realism of the story. Is that
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. And we do have the JSON for the uh CBI questionnaire kind of ready to go. So we can I can definitely talk to my team about getting that up there and testing that connection
yeah,
soonish. Yeah.
I
yeah.
guess that's a question for the track lead and James and Brian. Maria, I guess it's who is keeping track of each of the data has been tested. I think probably we need to create some either
Oh,
spreadsheets or schedule.
yeah, I mean, I'd like to avoid creating any more spreadsheets. I think we have, I mean, we have all of the resources that we're supposed to be working through in the data inventory spreadsheet. So just adding a column that says whether or not it's been tested and it's good to go, I think would be an appropriate add to what we already have working. So
Yep. Sounds good. All right. Well, thank you. We're over time. Appreciate it. Thank you. If you have any questions or anything comes up, let us know.
thanks all.
And we'll talk to you later. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.